Why do most people not believe everything?
I think one, fear.
The end.
When you open your mind up to believing all that is, all that could be, it's exciting. It's fun. Life just becomes so much better. When you block yourself from a possibility, you're closing yourself off. Open yourself up to all that is so that you can receive all of the choices, all of the options, all of the possibilities. That's when you are empowered because you have everything in front of you. Then you get to go in and say, no, I want that one and that one. Everything else can go.
Hey everybody, welcome to Flow Getter. I'm here today with Erica. I'm Lisa, and we're in Denver together today, which is so great. Yay! So we are here today to talk to you about believing the unbelievable. And what we mean by that is, well, there's a lot of layers. So we're going to start from more simple to the more complex, perhaps. So, Erica, do you want to start us off with some thoughts?
Yes, thank you, Lisa. Hi guys. Hi, Flow Getterans. Whatever.
Flaggetti.
Yes. So this idea or this thought occurred to me because we have, in more recent podcasts, we've been talking a lot more about like kind of, I'll just say quote unquote, this world problems, like 3D, 4D sort of daily things that pop up and we wanted to address. But I've been paying more attention to the everyday conversations I have and everyday stuff that I see on TV or hear on the radio or read in things that I see. And there's a lot of doubt in the world, which I understand. We live in a world that is physical. We live in a world where we like to see to believe in order to believe. I totally understand that. I also find myself a lot of times like, or maybe most of the time. That I believe that this thing exists, but I haven't seen it. So it's not really true for me yet. I'll fully admit that. That said, I also come from a mindset of everything is possible. And if you can imagine it, it exists. And so I wanted to talk about this topic because I want us to share our thoughts around it and sort of hear what you guys may have to
add to
the conversation.
We always want to know that because there's always more.
Yes.
Always. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So put your comments in there and let us know. Okay. So I like that you're saying there's sort of the daily unbeliefs and then, like I said, we'll get into the more deeper, broader things. One of the first things I wanted to ask you or maybe talk about and then get into is the idea of just believing in general. Like, how do we get there? You know, like we have these sort of, we're trained as we come into this world by our families, our communities, and society as a whole. So our beliefs are formed, and obviously the whole world everyone has their own unique set of beliefs. And why is it so important to, like, what do we get out of this believing or not believing? Why do most people not believe everything? Like, why is it so small?
Yes, I think there's two things I'll say, and that's a great question. I think one, fear. I think the reason, like the original four-letter F word is fear, and I think there's a lot of fear. And I know we've talked about this in even a couple previous podcasts where we're kind of human beings were built to survive. You know, like we have sort of a survival mentality, and so our default is negative thinking and all the things that we've discussed this stuff in the past. And so it's not a wonder that we come from sort of a fear-based, a lot of us do come from fear first, and then that's how we operate. It's almost like, what is it, guilty or innocent until proven guilty, but actually the truth is a lot of times it's guilty until proven innocent, which is sort of similar. It's like it's fear until proven not fear or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that sort of starts you off with starts you off with a disbelief. The second thing I'll say is I think the reason why I believe it's important to kind of shift that is because it provides a lot of hope. It provides motivation to just do better, be better, evolve. When you open your mind up to believing all that is, all that could be, it's exciting. It's fun. It like life just becomes so much better. when you approach life from a, yeah, but, or it's just, you could even see my entire being just kind of
it takes the
this.
wind out of your sails.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's a conditioned, and we all say, yeah, but, right? And when you notice that, then that's maybe a time to stop and say, I got a belief that's preventing possibility. And that it just took my energy down. Is that where I want to keep going? Don't make yourself wrong. Just be like, oh, I just noticed that. Because the reason you're doing yeah buts is you're just conditioned. And that's okay.
Yeah.
We're all conditioned. It's fine. But you have a choice moving forward whether or not you want to do that. So that's like a really just little moment right there that you have total control over, and you're empowered to get a hold of that. And it's not going to be easy sometimes, but you can do it. And we all have, I like what you said about the possibility it's open, is because we all have our beliefs just about ourselves. Can I do it? Is it possible for me? I'm not enough. All of our good, delicious trauma, conditioning, subconscious programming, all that yummy stuff in there. Well, the reason it's good and why it's yummy is it's an opportunity for us to grow, overcome it, and expand, right? That's why we're here, is to grow. So, and have fun, of course, while we're doing it. So anytime we come up against those beliefs, then that's a great time to go like, instead of like, oh, I hate myself. See how I hate myself. Or see how and then just feel worse about it. It's like, oh, I'm so glad I noticed that, because now I can choose to believe the unbelievable and believe in myself, believe in the possibilities, believe in something else. And you don't have to go from I'm a piece of poop to I'm totally amazing, because that's sometimes a big jump. But you can take the like, hey, if whatever little thing, like, okay, it could be possible. I like the idea that it's even possible. I don't even know if I believe it's possible, but I like the idea. So you can just take a micro step towards believing the unbelievable about yourself and about your immediate situation, surroundings, things, or maybe there's things around you that are going wrong that really aren't about you, but you want that to change, or the world or whatever. It's like, get yourself to be a little more open. And then you have that first step, I think, into believing the unbelievable. But there's so much more. Let's discuss.
I love it.
So tell me about like a time where you've overcome, like gone from a believable. Do you have one top of mind where you've sort of taken yourself from I'm not believing to like I'm kind of in this conditioned mode, and then I had an experience, and then I'm like, whoa, like that just kind of opened my mind up.
Well,
and we all have these, but sometimes remembering them.
Yeah.
Right?
So one thing that I like to do is sort of observe my own experiences when I can, because that'll give me an idea of what I do believe. Because sometimes a lot of our beliefs, actually, I want to say probably most of what we believe is unconscious, which is what pulls experiences in. I mean, it's a law of attraction, right? So oftentimes we don't even know what we believe, or we think we believe something, but then life is showing us something different. So what we don't realize is that our conscious beliefs are conflicted with our actually unconscious beliefs that are more of who we are, I suppose, because that's what we're drawing in. That's the energy we're putting out. Yeah. So, or we want to believe something. So in our minds, we're like, no, I know that this can be true. Like, for example, I know that I can have full financial freedom.
Yeah, that's always a big one.
But life is showing me otherwise, right? I'll use that as an example where I noticed, this started maybe 10 years ago or so, when I started making more conscious choices that aligned with where I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. It seemed like each time I'd make a really good, positive choice, magically money would show up.
I'm attesting to the fact that she'd be on the phone. She'd be like, I did this really good thing. And you're like, and then I got $1,000 from this random something. Like it was
a check
always happening. It had to have
or...
happened since I've known you about 20 times.
Yes.
Which is a lot of times
for
manifesting something consistently.
Right? It's a lot. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, so that kind of showed me that, wait, there's a strong belief that I have to work hard for money, because that is still showing me
that's
said,
a collective consciousness.
That's a collective. That said, there's also a belief that if I make choices that kind of point me in the direction where I want to be, I am rewarded financially. There's that too. So it's
So
really
you have both.
fascinating. Yeah.
Mhm.
So exactly. I have both. I want the second belief to like just overtake everything, but I'm working on it.
Come
But
on.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the point is, like, I would have never thought that that was a, a reality. Like, I didn't think that, but clearly I can believe in the unbelievable. Like, that's a little bit unbelievable, but even though it's, so in any case,
Yeah. But it
that's an
started
example.
when you realized that you wanted more from life and to do something like our podcast, but like we were always kind of on that track, but we didn't know it. And so it seemed to have started kind of around the same time as well.
Yes.
So I think that's interesting.
Yes.
Like where that, it started showing up. So that's huge. Okay.
It's huge. No, that's great. Do you have any examples?
So many, but can I remember them?
I know.
Well, you had brought up, I know you have a time example because we talked about that yesterday.
Yes.
And I think for me, a lot of them, I'd say my example, I can't think of an example in particular in this moment because of like the pressure, but I could say that the times when I've gotten myself to really open up to a possibility, because I think, because I'm me, I'll have the world like, okay, I've got it figured out. So in my little realm, are there any real doors for open to possibilities? And then I'll talk to a friend of mine, or you or somebody else, and then they'll maybe talking about more possibility. I'm like, wow, my brain isn't very open to possibilities. So then I'll go into that mode. I'm like, okay, just open. And then all of a sudden, the manifesting thing happens, whether it's really small or an idea occurs to you, but I can feel my world open. And then I'm like, okay, like this is what I need to keep doing, but it's so easy to go right back into the little box that you've created. And that's natural, right? We're already doing that as third, fourth, the space-time people that we are, because as physicists have mentioned so many times, like there's the first dimension, second, and there's a lot of dimensions beyond what we're here. And my personal belief is that our consciousness comes in as a little, like, okay, you're going to go in this dimension as a Lisa. Okay, great. And so it's already creating its own little box. And that's good because that's why we're doing this, is to experience it on that level. And so it makes sense that our minds would sort of follow the same pattern. So it's okay. We're not doing anything wrong. And what's really cool is if you're like, I kind of want to open it up a little more to other dimensions or just more possibility. And one thing that we mentioned yesterday, there's a documentary, can't remember what it's called, but it's about infinity. And I love nerdy documentaries. Okay? Give them to me. It's fun. I got maybe a third of the way in. My brain was blown because infinity is really, like if you're watching something that really makes you think about infinity, you kind of your brain is like, okay, it's too much, because we don't think about infinity on a daily basis. At least, even me, I don't. And so what I realized is that opening up to possibility and expanding your believing unbelievable things is kind of like a workout. Like it's trying to like build muscle. Like it's not something that's a natural default. So that's one of the reasons we brought up this topic today, because we think it's important to be aware of it, which then makes you realize like, oh, I could open up my thinking a little more right now. I could believe something that I don't believe, that resonates with you, obviously. One more, okay, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, okay. One more point I wanted to make was our beliefs can cause harmony. Like you find, my friend, and we believe things. Oh, it's so great. And then you can also, as we've all seen in the world, beliefs can cause people to fight with each other or judge people or point fingers or start wars. It's happened. So it's a really good thing to understand that if creation, universe, God made us all, everything's valid, but that doesn't mean we have to fight about it. Okay. I can say, like if we can believe without hurting each other, then we can get along. We don't have to make everybody this homogenous belief system. Like I don't think that's why we're all here, but I don't think we have to hurt each other because of our beliefs, because they're just on different wavelengths and they can all coexist. But hurting, war, shutting people down, creating, systems where other people can't have because of beliefs, that's not okay. And we all know that, right? So I think the key is with our own beliefs, is to watch where you're blocking the harmony in life of other people, which mostly you're not, but it could happen. Like you could be doing that, but then because you'd be blocking yourself, because we're all one. And if you're going to do that to somebody else, you'd be blocking yourself, right? Because you would also not give yourself any freedom. So I just think that it's really important to watch our minds and what we believe about people, because to this day, you still hear people judging people, and we all do it. But I think it's just another layer of like, we can have a harmonious world and everyone still can be different. Like, that's a belief. And so I just want to do a plug for the oneness. Okay.
Yes,
that's
that's awesome.
Just, we have a oneness now. Now back to other little examples.
It's so good. And thank you for bringing that up, because I'm just going to kind of go off on like my own little belief system, because maybe this will provide
tuck in, everybody. Get some popcorn. Yeah.
So I am a Sagittarian. Sagittarians tend to, they're kind of labeled as more optimistic thinking, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's
the
true.
Opposite. Doom.
I feel like that's true. I tend to believe, like I said, I genuinely believe in everything. And when I say everything, I don't just mean like rainbows and unicorns. I mean like, if somebody believes that there is a devil, I believe that they believe that. And I believe that there is a devil, quote unquote, and I think the thing is when we bring up the belief in everything, then again, going back to this idea of fear, some people get tense, and which I understand, because if we believe in everything, if everything is true and everything is real and everything exists in this universe and in whatever dimension you want to think of, if you can imagine it, it exists. I genuinely believe that. Then the darkest things that you can think of do exist. That said, it is not anything to be afraid of. Because here's the thing, you can choose, you have full control over what exists in your world and what doesn't. Yes, something can exist and it doesn't have to be your experience. And so here's kind of my thinking. We kind of were talking about this last night a little bit. And it's an out there kind of thought,
so
but
buckle up, hang in there.
But I do believe this. Yeah. My belief is I have experienced all. I believe we've all experienced all things, which is why we have an emotional reaction to certain thoughts. Like if I can't even think of the most horrible thought. We don't have to paint a picture, but whatever, just bad thing that triggers like feeling or oh my God. It's because in some dimension, in some plane, in some timeline, I've experienced it, which is why I'm having that feeling. Cause I know we can call it empathy. I think even more than that though, I do think that I've experienced it. That said, I have experienced it. I know what it feels like. I don't have to experience it again. And I'm going to get into sort of the time is not linear discussion too after this. I think that what excites me about that is I believe that every single experience is a learning opportunity. So we all come into this existence right here, right now with a certain amount of wisdom. It's because we've had, here's the thing. We've had all the experiences, we're having all the experiences, and we will have all the experiences all simultaneously. And I have like 5 billion thoughts going on, so I apologize. This is sort of like a dump right now, but I'm just going to keep going.
Keep going.
The reason I know that that's true is because we've all had this experience where we've had a thought or premonition or something that has popped in our minds or a fear or whatever. And then it's come true. Maybe not even a fear, maybe just either a fear or a hope or something. And then it's come true. Mm-hmm. And the reason there's emotion tied to it is because we know it's going to happen. Because it's happened. It's happened. It's going to happen and it's happening.
Yeah. Because
all
time,
at once.
Yeah. And just as a side note for those science people, the physicists will say the time is always now. And I think with our human brains, our physicists are the people that can kind of help us see a little bit more outside that. But time, it's all in one moment. So it's past, present, and future all at the same time.
Yes.
But we won't go into the math because we can't do that. Okay.
But like, I guess you're talking about how you mentioned, well, we're not scientists. And I was like, well,
Oh, yeah.
actually, I like to think of us as scientists. And here's why. Because so when I think of science, I tend to think of anything that's physical. When I hear the word science, I'm like, okay, then science is this world. That is what this is. That said, like science is this much of what we know. Like we as humans have defined science as physical proof.
Yeah.
That's what science is. Physical proof is only this much of what actually exists. And I think I would venture to guess that most of us can agree with that there's more because we continue
Because we're always discovering every
Yes.
day. Every day there's so much being discovered and,
Exactly. That's why, because we know that there are going to be more discoveries. And that's why like information is infinite. And like to your point about the document infinity, exactly. Like the universe is ever expanding. Like our bodies are always changing. They're ever changing. And so, and you can't stop that. Like you can't stop your body from changing. And it can change in good ways and not good ways, like depending on what the choices that you make. But in any case, so that alone, the reason I say that we are all scientists is because we are all science. And when I say we are all scientists, I'm saying that we all have access to all the information that's out there, everything. And
we get to sort of experiment with life and decide what's true, and that becomes true for us. And we brought up the experiment with the two groups of physicists. I think it was at Copenhagen. I think Einstein, I can't remember if Einstein was a part of it, but basically they were trying to figure out what light is. Group A found that it was a particle, and Group B found that it was a wave. The answer is it's both, but each group only came to one conclusion. And these are the smartest sciencey physicist people on the planet. And that's what happened, right? So you're going, okay, we're all, in this, it's true for me at this time, but that can always change.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yes, it's true for me at this time, but that can change. It is amazing. It's like my truth is my truth, and somebody else's truth that looks exactly the opposite is their truth, and that is also true. That is just as true as my truth. And they coexist because this is an existence.
Infinity. But people are so afraid of other truths that they are actually drawing them in because they're so afraid of it. And because it's an infinite universe, and seems to be some amount of influence that we have over there's co-creation, there's what you kind of decided to manifest. And because everyone's like, why would never manifest that? And it's like, that's a whole other podcast. But the idea is that there's this infinity of everything. And if you stay focused on where you are headed and what resonates with you, you don't have to worry about all this other stuff. Because there's too many infinite possibilities for you to go, I can control all of it. Like, good luck. I don't think you should worry about the 8 billion other consciousnesses, not to mention the consciousnesses of all the trillions of your cells and the consciousnesses of everything around you, because it's all consciousness. P.S. So just use your personality to focus in the way that gives you the results you're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
All right. No, that's perfect.
I kind of jumped in there before. So, and you were talking too about the empathy, and that we've already experienced it, so we don't have to choose that.
Yeah. So I'm going to give an example. Anyone who's watched any of our other videos, you'll know I've spoken about this experience many times. But in any case, for those of you who haven't, when I was a kid, I had an abnormal amount of anxiety around the idea of losing my parents. My parents, I grew up in a 2-parent household. They're very close. My parents were always together. They commuted to work together. They commuted home from work together. They were like besties. But I had, I had a deep worry that something was going to happen to both of them or one of them or whatever. And I don't think it was, because I've asked other people, and I don't think it was a normal amount of fear or worry, because I'm sure all kids have some sort of fear that mom or dad's going to go. But I would sit by the window every day and wait for them to come home. Like I would look at all the cars and I would wait for them to come home.
That seems unusual. I was like, where are the Cheetos? And that show is on, and my parents aren't home, and who cares about homework? Go. Yeah.
Yes. And so when I was 16, my mom died in a plane crash. And so the worry actually came to life, right? Like that. And so 2 decades later, a lot of buried trauma, but then 2 decades later, when I really started to truly grieve and sort of heal that, I was talking to a friend, and she, oh, I was learning about the law of attraction actually from you, and yes, thank you. And as I was learning about the law of attraction, I started to kind of look at my whole life through that prism, sort of, and it occurred to me, I'm like, wait, I put so much energy into worrying about the death of my parents. Like, it was a fleeting thought, but it was a thought. Like, did I somehow contribute to that happening? And I knew that that's not. I knew that I didn't. But I was talking to another a coworker of mine at the time, and she basically said, "No, that was actually you being psychic. Like that, you were tapping into your, like, you knew that was going to happen."
Mm-hmm.
And so, and when she said that, like, it just resonated. It immediately resonated, and I knew that that was true. And so I give this example because I had already experienced the loss of my mom even before I came into this world.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that it was going to happen. Like, I knew that it was going to happen in the future, quote unquote future. And I was experiencing it still in the present by focusing on it and being fearful of it. Not consciously knowing any of these things.
Right.
But it was happening, it happened, and it was going to happen all at the same time. Now I mean, we have podcasts on all the things that I've learned, but there's so much, but I won't go into that here. Yeah. But the point is, like, that to me is one example of proof that time is not linear. And, when we talk about psychic abilities, law of attraction, to me, those two things are the same thing. They're really not any different. The reason we have these premonitions or whatever is because we already know it is magic, and at the same time it's real. Like I mean, those two things are not different anyway. Anyway, I know I'm kind of going off, but
well, I think how it relates to the believing the unbelievable is that you're kind of in this, okay, this thing happened. Now what do I believe about this? Because there's a lot of different ways everyone looks at that, right? Some people are from hyper victimized, and you're always, no matter what, you're always going to have grief and sadness and processing that. But the way you look at things now, it's one of the worst and best things that happened to you.
The best.
Like, which we, you hear all over the internet, like this, I got that, and then this, that was good. And, we've all manifested stuff like that. And if you haven't manifested stuff like that, you don't know. But if you've had something that really rocked your world, it really does keep you in a, like, this is super horrible. And yet you've transformed by processing that trauma. And there's so many podcasts on that. You've processed that into one of your strengths and one of your gifts that you can communicate with her. And there's all these really cool things that came out of that. So when we're sort of talking about our beliefs and kind of how we're trying to expand out of those things, I think that helped you tremendously. And also work not just with the time and space and psychic and all that stuff, but just as a person, it's helped you break out of barriers of life and death and helped you see these different dimensions of life that we all have. And I would say, people are like, I would never manifest anything bad or all that stuff. It's like, you actually do, because we came into a very high contrast environment for the purpose of growth. And like, these are the things that, like, you can't make sit-ups just by standing there. You literally have to, like, push against something. And, like, there's all these different ways to look at it.
Yeah.
So I just think that it was an expansive experience for you, which, when we're talking about unbelievableness, which means beyond your scope, really.
Absolutely. And it really is the experience that broke open my entire world. Mm-hmm. Really. Like, I was able to now start to see outside of the bubble that I had been living in up to that point. I think ultimately life is complex and it's also very simple at the same time.
Tell me why.
So the complexity part is this idea, what we're talking about now is sort of believing in all. Anything that pops in your head is, you can run with it or you can just dump it. It's your choice. Everything that comes into our experience has meaning, and you can pick apart all of it if you want, or you can just pick the things that resonate and you're like, yes, I want to go with this thing. And both options are awesome. That's the kind of complex part. The simple part is just feel good, right? So the whole...
Tell us more. We're like, yes, goodbye. That's okay.
Flow Getter is about flowing with life, getting to the flow of life and feeling good is really, I mean, that's it. And so this whole idea of believing in the unbelievable is to feel good. So like, if you're like, I want this thing, but I don't think that that's a possibility. You know, if you believe that it is, it feels better. Like it just, I don't know.
Yeah, even if it doesn't happen, you feel better.
Yeah. If you have a goal in life, you have motivation, you have reason to keep going, and it's not that dire, but it's like, it's just, I find so much excitement and joy in believing in all possibilities because everything is for us. Everything is for you. There is always goodness that comes out of literally every experience, everything. Even if it feels absolutely horrible as it's happening, even if the thought of it feels absolutely horrible, even if a memory feels absolutely awful, it's for you. It's not just for you, but it's for everything.
It's for all of us.
It's for all of us. It's for the collective. It's for every person, every being that comes into your sphere. It's for them as well. And so I get excited personally about beliefs in, I don't know, communicating with extra dimensions.
Yeah, let's go there.
Right? Okay. Yeah.
You're like, okay, now that we've gone through humanness, let's go to extra, like we'll say off planet or off fourth dimension.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say, and
that's why they call it extra dimensionals,
right? Yeah. And because our minds are linear, I think when we think it's almost like and I have this visual too, where it's like the further out, it's like further away, right? You just kind of have this line of like,
you talked about this yesterday. Go.
Yeah. Okay. So we all have a certain distance that we can see, a certain amount that we can hear. Like at some point you stop hearing things. At some point you stop seeing things. At some point, I have to be in a certain proximity to touch something, right? Mm-hmm. In order to feel it. Beyond that though, we still have certain beliefs. Like I believe that I've never been to China, but I believe that it exists. Yeah. I believe that it's there. Mm-hmm. And I believe that
I've been told.
Yeah. So I believe it. I believe that, the sky, I believe the earth is round, a sphere, right? Yeah. I haven't actually seen it, but I believe that that's true. There's certain beliefs.
And there's other people that don't.
Yes. Okay. And that's okay. Right. But like there's certain things that I think we all believe, even though we've never seen them.
Yeah.
Even though we've just taken them as truth. And I believe that because knowing that you have that capability and the capacity to believe what you have not seen, you have the capacity to believe in all that you've not seen, everything. And
good point.
Yeah. And I do think, like, again, to me, when we talk about logic, like science is logical. I think, believe it or not, the non-physical is even more logical.
Tell us why. Because everyone's like,
Yeah, exactly.
What are you talking about?
Because most of what we know is
actually
not physical. Or is not...
It's something that someone told you.
Yes, exactly. You haven't experienced all that you believe.
Oh my God. Let's take a moment. Think of almost everything you believe is not something you've experienced, right? Other than gravity. That's the only thing that's unseen that you believe.
And I'll take that a step further. Believe it or not, you've actually experienced it. Like I said before. Yeah. That's why you've experienced all, but you've just chosen to consciously believe certain ones. And that's because it's a high repetition. Maybe it's because it's our collective belief. Like we as a society have all bought into this thing and we keep hearing stories about it over and over and over. So we've chosen to believe those things. Mm-hmm. Like there's like untold history books that we've chosen to believe.
Yeah. And then they tell you, wait, we just found this out. And then you're like, oh, okay, now I'll believe that.
Yes.
So we're already doing that.
We're already doing that.
You just totally blew my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, we are. And so it isn't that weird for us to go, well, how about this layer of existence or this thing,
Well, and I would venture to guess, like even now, I mean, in my lifetime alone, I have gone from, at least in my little world, it feels like most people that I've known went from like the idea of extraterrestrial or alien, like most people in my world, it was like, no, that's just in the movies. Now it feels like, and
we're all
I think
kind
it's
of like, okay, we're kind of ready.
Yeah, it feels like more people are like on board with the idea.
Yeah.
Even things like technology. There's certain
Right. It would have flipped out, let's say, our tribes that live in places that they don't experience what we're experiencing.
Right.
We would probably traumatize them with like iPhone. Like, right.
Yeah.
What is that? It's a talking box rock thing. Pew, pew. Like, I mean, that's assuming a lot. But, like it would be pretty mind blowing.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, so I like this picture you're building, which is just because we think we know doesn't mean we know.
Right.
So let's stay open to the unbelievable because it's going to open the possibilities to your experience.
Exactly.
Again, right? We're repeating the same thing. But
That's exactly it. And it's kind of like, I guess, in a nutshell, just say yes. Right? You've said this before.
Yeah, just say yes.
Just say yes.
Watch the movie Yes Man, also with Jim Carrey. That's super fun. Just everything. It's funny.
Just say yes without the fear. Remove the fears. Say yes, and that's kind of the goal. Is like, oh my gosh, okay, let's just say yes. Whatever you want to call it, alien, extraterrestrials, extra dimensionals, like whatever you want to call the life forms, life energy.
Life that you don't get to communicate with.
Yes, or you don't think you do.
Well, yeah,
right?
I said that wrong. That you haven't yet communicated with. Like there are species on this planet that no one has seen or know of until the scientists are to discover it next week. But it doesn't mean they're there.
Right. That's exactly it. And
so why shouldn't that be off planet or off this time and space? Because those realms also exist. We know that there's a galaxy. Well, we've been told there's galaxies. We're in a galaxy and there's trillions of galaxies. So put that in your
infinite
brain. Because galaxies are already really infinite. And then you take trillions. Your brain just goes poing. So there's that. So we know that. So why wouldn't there be infinite possibilities of that? And then we know even on Earth, there's infinite things that they haven't discovered about the body. They're discovering new things today about all the life forms on the planet. So, and I got to take a second here and go, why are we even talking about this? Like people, I got problems. I got kids I got to deal with, but like, why are you talking about all this other shit? Well, the reason is,
Here's why. Because
you can't drink when
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you all heard that too. I'll edit it out. No. But here's why. It's because, well, clearly we get excited about it and we want to share our joy and excitement around it. Here's the thing. When we get so stressed out about this little world that we're in, I got kids to feed. I got
get this done. Typey.
Yes. When you pause, when you hit pause for a second and you pull yourself away and you kind of look at the bigger picture of life, this is why. Because you realize you open yourself up to the possibility of always better. Always better.
Mm-hmm. New, different.
Yes. Because I think a lot of us, I think the reason we're calling this believe in the unbelievable is because I think for me personally, I do get stuck in this tight little world. And it's like nothing outside of this exists. And it's going to be stressful and hard and blah, blah. But when I stop and I'm like, wait a second. No, there's like infinite other possibilities and choices that I could be making. There's infinite other, there's even if like I'm here and I want to be here or here or here, or ultimately I want to be here. I can get here and then here and then here and I can get there.
I love that.
And it's like, these are each a different possibility.
Yeah. Infinite. Each little micron of one beep over is a whole realm of possibility.
Exactly. And that could, for a lot of people, I want to say for most of us, sometimes
that's enough.
That feels like, yes, it feels like it's unbelievable. But if I just believe in that, like take that one step forward, oh my gosh, then like the checks that just showed up in the mail or like, whatever. Yeah. Like,
or that this day is going to be an easy day at work versus a struggle day.
Yes.
Like just one day of one attitude shift of difference can make a whole thing. So really it kind of circles back around to manifesting and it's sort of like you're participating in that by opening to feeling better and shifting your thoughts. I don't know if I said that right, but do you know what I mean?
Like conscious manifesting, because we're always manifesting, but it's more conscious manifesting of the things that you actually want, and knowing how that works. Right. And just sitting back and energy is flowing. You don't even know what it looks like. And then you're getting hit in the face with stuff that you don't want versus like my energy is in a really good place. And then I'm pulling in experiences that I want to experience
and receiving
and receive.
Allowing, because I think so much of manifesting is not go get it, because we call it flow getter, which means you're allowing yourself to be in the flow and receiving the flow, because it really should be I love the hard work, work hard and make it happen. We're not taking that off the table, but it should feel like easy good. Like, even though it's hard, like athletes aren't, I'm just sitting back and then I won the Tour de France. No, but it's like, there's a flow there, right? Yeah. That's what we're getting at.
Yeah.
So, okay. And you were saying more about that little shifting your, from like little world to little world. Can you kind of go deeper in that? Because I think most of us are there. We're not like, today I'm going to think about the possibilities of interdimensional and who cares about work, even though I think that's really important to think about that. And that's why we brought it up, is you don't have to sit and think about that, but just knowing that there's so much more is going to help you get out of your little tight world. And that's really all.
Yes.
Because sometimes I'm like, I don't care. I was watching some documentary that she told me about. It's like, okay, I'm really glad that there's beings from interdimension. Yes, I totally believe it. I'm totally in. How does this help me get through this stupid work day? Or get the things done that I want to get done, or the dreams that I have, or give me more time to do, whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's really why we're bringing it up. And Erica has the answer.
I'm
always like, I don't care. I'm like, yes, aliens, they're here. I get it. It's all, but how does this get me, better this or more of that in my regular life? And then, so we're giving you that answer right now, Erica.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, somebody else.
Okay.
So one of the things I'll say is remembering that everything that shows up in your world is a reflection of you. So, and the reason I said is because when I was watching this thing, part of the reason I got so geeked, one of the things that a takeaway for me was, so this documentary that we're talking about, or it's a docuseries, it's called Interviews with Extra Dimensionals. And it's like a series of interviews with channelers, people who channel extra dimensional energy. And it was started by this guy named Ruben Langdon, who I adore him. And if anybody's interested, Google Ruben Langdon Interviews with Extra Dimensionals and you'll find the thing.
You're welcome, Ruben. We just plug your show. Okay, anyway.
and the reason I plug it is because, so I joined, he has this membership thing and I joined it. And because I was very curious and and it gives you an opportunity to actually interact with a lot of these channelers, because they'll have like a weekly, he'll host a weekly person. In any case, one of the things I learned, which I completely, like, as soon as I learned it, I was like, yes, that feels so right.
Okay.
Because one of the questions I had was, it doesn't make sense to me how these, I think a lot of times we see, okay, channeler, if you even know what that is, you're basically you're allowing energy to kind of consume your body for a period of time so that they can get a message out. That's what channeling is. And it can be conscious or unconscious. And a lot of these are unconscious. And so it's essentially like, it's almost like you see the person as the human form, and then all of a sudden they turn into something else. And they're delivering.
And for the skeptic, they're like,
yes, for the skeptic, they're like, what?
And I was a little more with it. You were like all in.
I was all in. And
but we both learned different things from this. So
we did learn different things. And one of the reasons I realized now that I was all in was because I believe that essentially what they're doing is channeling a different version of themselves. Because I 100% believe that all of your whole world, my whole world, your whole world is a reflection of you. You are essentially putting out an energy. You are a specific makeup, a specific kind of energy, which is why you look different than everybody else, because your energy is different than everybody else. When we have similarities with other people, it's all it's saying is, oh yeah, your energy in this way is similar. That's what that is. But like when you're pulling in all these different mirrors of you. And so these channelers, they're channeling just a different version of themselves, which is why they get to connect with that specific energy. And so when I learned that, I'm like, that makes so much sense to me. And so they're, what they're doing is they have it. I don't want to call it, because I don't want to give it a hierarchy. But it often feels like a more evolved, I'll just say it. It often feels like a more
wiser.
evolved version. It's what, yeah,
feels wiser.
There's wisdom. Exactly. There's wisdom there that feels there. It just feels so.
Yeah. And for those of you who listen to Abraham, Bashar, even Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah. These are
His
channelers.
Holiness the Dalai Lama. I think there's like a higher energy working in tandem there.
Absolutely. Right? It's like some of us are consciously more open to, we all have, by the way, we all have the ability. And I will honestly say, when we podcast,
sometimes Erica is overtaken.
No, it's true. Like I can tell when
you shift a little.
Yeah. I can tell when words are just flowing and flying, and I don't really like, I'm definitely a part of this, but it's not a conscious thought. It's just stream. It's a stream. And that's channeling.
Yeah.
Books, movies, artists.
Yes.
Those are channelers.
Music for sure.
Music.
Yeah.
They're channeling. It's all channeled. And that is not to take away from the genius that is the human being. What it is they're opening themselves up to connecting.
Einstein would talk about this too. He'd just go for a while. He's like it would just come in.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have this experience. You have this experience as well.
We all have this experience.
We call them downloads. We call them whatever it is.
It just popped in my head.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's basically us opening ourselves up to all that is and receiving the goodness. And the more we do that, because the more we do that, the more we're evolving and the more we're integrating it into our being, and then we're moving ourselves forward.
And we're more empowered. And that is what we're all looking for. We want to feel power, personal power and freedom.
Yes.
Don't tell them, which leads to happiness, right?
Absolutely.
Don't tell me you're not looking for that, people. That's what you're looking for. And so this is one of those avenues where you don't have to be a channeler. You don't have to believe in this stuff, but you have to understand that there's more with you that I don't know how I'm saying this. Don't block, and more goodness is coming to you. Whatever it is. Stop blocking.
This is why just say yes without the fear. Because when you say yes, you're opening yourself up to all that is, and you're believing in the unbelievable. Even when you're like afraid, the only reason when you say no, it's like there's a tension, there's a fear, there's a closeness. When you just relax and say yes and allow, you're opening yourself up.
Yeah. Which is different than your gut reaction of, oh, hell no. And
yeah.
that does not, because you definitely need to listen to I call it your viscera, where your body's like, oh no. Well, like that's a whole different thing. We're talking about your own. Yeah.
I think what you're referring to is when you make decisions about things, when you're making choices, but we're not talking about making choices in this podcast. We're talking about believing in all that is. In other words, like if it's like, oh, do you want this or that for dinner? You like there's a clear like,
or should I get in the car with a stranger? Yes or no?
Right. Those are decisions. What we're talking about is believing in the possibility of everything. When you block yourself from a possibility, it's not even a choice. Like that's not a choice. Like how do I say this? You're closing yourself off. It's like the closed-mindedness, right?
Yeah. It's a non-receiving state, which you're kinking the hose. You're not flowing.
Here's what I'm saying. Open yourself up to all the choices. Then you go inside yourself to choose what's right for you. That's what we're talking about.
Very nice.
We're saying open yourself up to all that is so that you can receive all of the choices, all of the options, all of the possibilities.
And examine the salad bar.
Yes.
And go,
Yes. Imagine it. Exactly. And then that's when you are empowered because you have everything in front of you. Then you get to go in and say, no, I want that one and that one. Everything else can go. Even though you know that somebody else can go and choose something that you didn't choose, right? Because those are all options. But that's what we're talking about here is believing in the possibility of literally everything, because then you're empowered to choose what is best for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well said. I love that. And I think I'm going to give ourselves and some homework. And we also listen back to our podcast to tell us what to do in the future. So this is as much for us as it is for you guys. And we want to hear your experiences. We want to hear your perspectives, and we want to be open to new ideas as well. So please share those with us. So I think all of our homework is, how can we just open up our minds a little more and receive a little more and ultimately believe in ourselves more. I mean, if I hear anything over and over again, I feel like there's two groups of people: those who already believe in themselves and are going forward, and those who are not. And let's put ourselves in that group of believing in ourselves and believing the unbelievable about ourselves. You can do it. We can do it. Yes. Go, everybody. Go. All right. Well, thank you so much, Erica, for all your wisdom today. And thank you, Lisa, for all my wisdom today.
So much.
And thanks, audience, for being with us. We are so happy that you made it this far in the podcast. So we love you so much. For those of you listening and not watching, go to flowgetter.com. Sign up there for our email so you can stay in touch with us. We'd love a like and a subscribe, because that helps us know you're into us and helps the channel grow. Until we see you next time, thank you, everybody, for your existence and being open. Erica, thank you.
Thank you.
Yay. Bye, everybody.
Bye,
we'll
guys.
see you next time.